Yo,
Yo.
what's up? I am close. I am back up a little bit.
Doing good.
Video.
What's happening?
How are you? Welcome to Let's No Longer Waste Time. Let's podcast. He's John. I'm John. What's the latest?
Here we are. I've got a new office set up. Well, I cleaned and painted and redid my office. Pretty excited about that.
I
should
don't.
say I have a plant.
I still look like a fraternity house.
It is. It's very fraternity house looking. Mine is a lot different.
Who's she? In the background?
This is just a painting I did back in the early 2000s.
Nice.
Yeah, a couple paintings. I used to paint. I haven't done it in a while. I'm doing it now again, but I'm doing it totally different types of painting, which is weird. But, I've got some time.
That's all right. Well, I think last time on the last podcast, we had just explored the idea of getting a license to drink.
Right.
Right. And the more I've thought about it since we last did that, the more I think that that's like, it's such a good idea. I really believe that people should have a drinking license.
Not only a license, but I thought about it and I was thinking like almost like an Uber rating. So if you go into a bar and you do some shenanigan stuff, your rating goes down. And as you go, say you have to show your ID to get into some place, they can look at it and be like, oh, this person's they're a 7. Okay, they're fine. This person's a 3.
So it's not
1.
That's interesting, but so it's not like crowdsourced. It's like the bartender would have to be in charge of that, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because like, some guy would just walk in, hit on some drunk girl. She tells him to go fuck off. And then he just gives her a 1, right? So like, it couldn't be people.
No,
it has to be the staff.
It's the reverse Yelp. It's Yelp for people from bars. And I think it would work. It would literally just imagine that if you had to think about that, because people worry about their Uber ratings a lot. They're always like, oh, my Uber rating's all fucked up, which I never thought it was like credit score once in a while. Credit's like only good as when you need it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like right now, if everyone's like, what's your credit score? I'm like, how many houses are you going to buy? Like, when was the last time you actually looked at your credit?
I don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Right. It's house, car, credit card.
Right.
That's it.
So you wouldn't really know what it is right now. You just
my credit stays frozen. Like when I had that identity theft, you remember that a bunch of years ago?
Yeah.
I froze all 3, and they were just like, well, you can freeze the account until you have this sorted. I'm like, what does that mean? And they said it just means that no one can do anything with your credit score. So you can't buy a house, you can't buy a car. You basically, no one can check your credit. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I just have it frozen all the time? Like, because like you said, I don't ever use it.
You need it. Right.
Yeah. So I was like, let's freeze all 3, and went ahead and it's like 3 separate companies. You have to go through 3 separate things. They all have 3 separate ways to freeze it, 3 separate ways to unfreeze it. I've got 3 different passcodes. Like I have this one piece of paper, and if I lose it, I'm fucked. Like, I'm pretty sure I know. So I have like all of the how to get my credit unfrozen, but I'm dreading the day that like I need a new credit card or, a car or something. And it's like, I can't get into my own credit.
Right. Your own credit's frozen. But yeah. If it's drinking, say when you turn 21, let's walk this through. Like, unpack it, as they say. You go get your card, your drinking card, you apply. So you're starting at 0. You're fine. You haven't really done anything unless you're 18 and you have some DUIs and some shenanigans, minor offenses when you're a minor.
Yeah.
And then you get your license and now you can go drink. And then as you do things, it's like an Uber rating, as if it stays the same, you don't do anything wrong, your drinking rating stays the same. But as you do shenanigans, people can be like, well, that person, and it isn't, it does definitely, I would imagine, work on a thing like, okay, well, that person that tipped me really well, or that person didn't do this, didn't do that. But again, if you think about Uber, you're in the hands of the Uber driver. You throw
Yeah, I
up in the
think
back seat of his car, yeah, something's going to happen.
I don't know that it should be like a universal drinking score, but I think it should be establishment specific.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because to your point, if you're just drunk and you waltz out and you forget to leave a tip, that bartender has every right to fuck you, but
Mm-hmm.
like at that bar, because
Right.
like so if you went to a different bar and you're like, ooh, here comes a terrible customer, and you're like, oh man, I forgot to tip that other
Right.
night, and now every bar is going to turn me away. But like, I wonder what the average score would be. Like, what would a bartender be looking at, or staff looking at, like? Because again, they're going to have a bias. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is he a little bit of a like? Is it what kind of drinking customer this person is, or is it how can they handle their liquor?
Right. So I bartended at all kinds of different types of bars. Like when I bartended at Max's on Broadway, that was like a 3 deep bar. Like there was no way
Yeah.
we could have dealt with the score. There we were just like, it was volume. It was a volume business. So you were just literally throwing Miller Lights and shots at people all the time. And then it was, well, we're going to sell 70 some different types of craft brew and 200 bottles of beer on the wall. And that was, it still was a Miller Lite bar at times on the weekends because we were just like volume. It was like 3 deep. But if you went to a place where I bartended where it wasn't like that, you could have more of a intimate thing with your customer, so you could actually talk to them and look at their rating. But I don't know. Like, it's funny because when we were talking about it, I was like, oh, it'd be great if like when people came in, you could see, do not serve this person a fourth drink.
Right. Yeah. Like, there's no
3, they're fine. 4, problemo. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's where you would really want that. But you can watch it after a while. You can watch people start becoming invisible. When you're the sober person behind the bar, you can literally watch alcohol take over. I'm reading this fascinating book called Drunk by Edward Slingerland. Drunk by Edward Slingerland. And it's about the history of booze. And it's fascinating. I highly recommend it to anyone who's listening to this. Just go get the book Drunk. And it won't make you want to not drink. It'll make you appreciate what alcohol is and how we're poisoning ourselves with it, and how our defense systems in our bodies are actually primed to deal with the ethanol that we put in our bodies. Because that's what it is. Ethanol is the active ingredient that makes us feel drunk, which is a poison. So it's funny. Yeah.
I think last night I read another book called Drunk. I had a lot of beer with it, and it wasn't actually a book. And
Right.
I read nothing, and I woke up on the couch.
So how'd you feel the next day? Like, how have your hangovers been since you've been older?
They're good. Like,
Yeah?
they're not bad. They're most hangovers are just a little bit cobweb head.
Mm.
I don't really get headaches, and I also don't get annihilated. Right. Like I don't remember the last time that I was just like passed out in a weird place or blacked out, or, so typically I think we covered this in an earlier podcast. My wife's the same way. We like, all alcohol does is enhance the natural tiredness.
Right.
So I'll have a beer.
So, yeah,
I'll have like a 16-ounce IPA,
right.
and then a couple sips of an IPA. And then all of a sudden I feel like I'm nudged a little bit, and my eyes pop open, and it's 1, and somehow I missed like the entire Colbert show, and like it's already on to like the whatever, who that James Corden.
Right.
And she's like, we should go to bed. I'm like, we should go to bed. So it's like, that's pretty much the extent of my drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So the hangovers really, they're not really hangover. Wine tends to sometimes make me a little headachy.
Mm.
So if I have wine and I wake up and I'm feeling it right away, I might just go immediately pop some some Advil,
Right.
lie down a little bit more, and I'm usually able to nip it. But I don't get like, ice, walk around the house, ice pack, like bathrobe, cancel all plans. That doesn't happen anymore.
What was interesting is this book talks about how, how we as a culture, as even just as human race, has dealt with alcohol, and how we've
Pretty poorly.
And this is the first time in the last couple 100 years, we have been dealing with an alcohol that is so much higher or more potent than we were used to. So in the 1700s, everything was around 4%, 3%. And they always say, well, it's because of the water. Well, you could drink tea. You could boil water and make tea, and you could drink that, because there's always going to be alcohol in our world. But our forefathers were drinking like cider, but they were drinking cider that was like 3% alcohol. They weren't drinking like 9% alcohol beers. They were drinking like very low alcohol. And then all of a sudden, then spirits came up, and they were like, okay, well, spirits, that's in the like 1800s. We're going to have whiskey, and we're going to have rye, and we're going to have like the brown liquors. And over in Europe, they have the white liquors, like rice wine. They had vodka, things like that. So you have all these things coming up, but they didn't have the production value and the volume that we can make now. And the other thing that made me like really fascinating, I found, was what's changed in our society is that we can buy it and bring it home. That's new. Like liquor stores, if you looked at the history of man, liquor stores are like this compared to our drinking as a human race. Like being able to go to a store, even a grocery store now, buy a drug and take it home and drink as much as you want unmonitored is brand new compared to like how long we've been drinking.
Right.
And you think about it, and you're like, yeah, I guess, because you can have a bar in your office. You can have, you know what I mean, in your places. You had a bar in your office, not like you were like Mad Men making yourself a drink, but it's unmonitored. Someone isn't monitoring the drug for you. It's self-monitored. And the minute we're self-monitored, alcoholism goes up, death by alcohol shenanigans, everything was like exponentially went up the minute sort of liquor stores came on board. And also that the local pub, we used to be a culture of buying rounds. I would buy a round and you would drink your pint, because we would go to the local, and we would finish work in the field or whatever we were doing, like, growing potatoes, whatever the fuck we were doing. We went to the
banging metals.
Right. And we went and I would buy a round, and we would drink all at the same pace until you would buy a round. And then someone would be like, oh, we got to get home and eat the stew or the gruel or whatever our wives were making for us. But we would drink at the same pace, and we would always drink the same amount, basically on the group you have. Now it's socially acceptable to walk into a bar by yourself, sit and drink as much as you want until someone tells you can't drink anymore. And that's a cultural shift. So drinking alone and this is all new. This is only like literally, and if you even think about it, the other thing you brought up was shots and shooters, like being able to get the alcohol into you quicker. That's really new. That's been since like the 70s that we've been doing shots. Like they used to do like a shot in a beer in the 1800s, but it was like it was like really, and it wasn't an ounce. It was like a small bullet. It was called a bullet. And it was like a little tiny shot. And that's where picklebacks came from. Remember a pickleback? You ever have that? It's like a shot of whiskey and a shot of pickle juice. Because the whiskey was so bad that they would do a shot of the whiskey, and it was called rot gut. And then you would drink this pickle juice to make it better. That's a weird thing if you think about it. Like, why not just drink? How
bad is the whiskey when a shot of pickle juice makes it better?
How bad is your life when you have to drink something to drink something else to feel better?
Right.
Or to numb up.
If you ask a billion people today.
And I've done it. I'm not being pious here, but yeah, it's an interesting book because it definitely shows like we're still new with this, and it's socially still acceptable.
What's interesting is, we're new and not getting any better.
No,
I feel like we're getting worse.
Well, I think the pandemic made it socially acceptable because of, if you just followed social media and the culture, like day drinking was okay. Like drinking during the day was very acceptable. Drinking during, and I think just drinking in general, if we can push all things aside of like me sounding superior, if we can just put that aside for a second, and we're just having a discussion, a podcast about alcohol right now, like it's socially acceptable to drink. Yeah. It used to be not socially acceptable to smoke weed, and that's becoming social acceptable, but these are still drugs. Like alcohol doesn't even seem to be like a drug because it's on TV. It's part of our culture. It's part of our of what our parents did. It's what our parents did. Because the minute you have, so if you think about it, if you have someone in your world that stops drinking, everyone's always like, well, they must be pregnant,
Right.
or something must be wrong, or they're making some adjustment in their life. And oh yeah, he was hitting the sauce too much. Like you have to have the why on why you stopped drinking. You can't just your social circle isn't going to be like, well, Bob isn't drinking anymore. They have to like literally make an announcement, which is weird if you think about it. It's like, I don't want to do the drugs anymore. Okay. Most everyone should be like, yeah, okay.
And what's interesting too is like a week ago, my wife and I wanted to stop at this one restaurant because they make great wings, and we wanted to just both of us get an order of wings, maybe some crab dip or something. It was like one of those dinners, I think the
American tapas.
Yeah, the kids were doing something and they were occupied, and we were just like, oh, we'll just go. Where the hell? Oh, they went out to dinner with one of their friends, took them out to dinner. So we're like, we'll just go sit at the bar. Like we didn't feel like drinking. We just want to sit at the bar, have some wings, have some dip or something. And we had to even do something at night. And we were like, yeah, let's just, and so we walk in, and as soon as we walk in, I'm like, what are we just going to order? Ginger ale? Are we just going to sit at the bar, order ginger ale or like a water, soda, and then just order food? Right. And then I'm like, let's go to the table. So we're not at the bar, because you can't sit at a bar and not drink. So we'll just go to a side table and not drink. Mm-hmm. So we go to the side table, like a cocktail waitress comes over and was like, hey, can I get you something? We're like, yeah, wings, crab dip. And she's like, anything to drink. And we just stared at her. And I said, Bud Light bottle. And Angela's like, Miller Lite. And she's like, okay. And we left. And we're like, we're in this environment where it's, you almost can't, because like to your point, I'm like, oh no, we're at a bar, but we don't drink, or we're at a bar, but we're not drinking. We're just here for the wings. I don't know why. There's no reason why we couldn't have just both gotten a soda.
Yeah, it'd have been fine. But
as soon as we walked in, we're like, this is the place where you come to drink, so we're going to drink.
Yeah, and it's funny because you do have that moment, that pause of, I don't want to feel like I'm cheaping out, but what else is there to drink if you don't want to drink alcohol? Like I felt like the older I've gotten, the less I've drank. And the more I don't have to, I like sipping a drink now.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I after even reading this book, and it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm going to quit drinking, because the guy just drinks who wrote the book. But he just talks about like what it does to you. And it's still amazing. Like if you read any of it about what ethanol does to your body, what it does to your brain, what it does to your organs, what it does to everything. But
I'm familiar with it.
We've adapted as a human race to be able to break down alcohol. And there was this thing I thought was really funny. It was a side note. It was called the Asian flush. I don't even know if that's politically correct.
We get red-faced.
Yeah. Do you have anyone that was Korean? And like I had a friend I went to college with who was Korean, and every time he drank, it's his body. So your body breaks down the alcohol and then it turns it into, I think it's carbon dioxide. Not carbon dioxide, and it breaks it down, and then your liver breaks it down even more, and it releases this enzyme that says, okay, there's ethanol in here, this is a poison, we should probably attack that poison. So your filter filters it out, it makes it water, that's why you pee. And then there's carbon dioxide. What happens is in Asian culture is Asians that in their genetic makeup, they produce way more of this enzyme than a normal white person would say, or African-American person. And they turn bright red because they have this heightened amount of this enzyme in their body. And it's called an Asian flush. And it's interesting because one would think that in the 1400s in Asia, they would stop drinking. They're like, this is no good. And at no point in any culture, in most cultures of our world, unless it's religious based, did anyone, even from the 1200s, 1100s, keep going back, did they ever say like, this is probably not for us? It's been in almost every culture other than a religious thing, unless it's like someone saying we're Mormons, we don't drink. We're Muslim, we don't drink because it's against God's will or whatever it is. But no culture has ever said this is probably bad for us physically. Let's not do this anymore.
I would love. Did it touch on at all like how it was invented?
Yeah. So there's like, it goes all the way back to the BC where they found these jars. And I'm always like, how do they know that?
But if
Like, how do they know?
but if they
Like,
found jars, it was already
there are these
there was a
jars that they did a DNA sample and they could tell that there was like, again, something fermented in this. So the very first, scientists assume that the very first alcohol was rotting fruit that we as like knuckle draggers just picked up and ate. And we got a little buzz because it's like fermented because it's rotten. And birds do that now. And there's some monkeys that eat fermented fruit. But then we do realize, oh, if we take those things and we put them in jars and they ferment more, then we'll drink, we eat those. And basically everything was trial and error back then. Oh, God, Bob died. Let's stop doing that.
Yeah,
it's all trial and error.
That's what I'm getting at. I don't care so much about the history as the play-by-play footage of like the first alcohol intake,
Right.
where someone was just like, I'm hungry. That doesn't look great, but it's better than having to go out and find the fruit. So I'm just going to eat this rotten thing.
Oh, and
fast forward 5 hours. He wakes up, from the floor of where he was sleeping and was like,
right.
Like that was crazy. My head hurts. Like I wonder if I can recreate that, but maybe not so much, and then just goes out, gets a couple more fruit, and leaves them on the floor for 3 weeks,
it's these little wins of like, okay, that was bad. He's hallucinating and just ran into the fire. We should probably not do those.
And
things,
then like the next test was with a friend, like, hey, Bruce, come here. We got it. Like, last time I ate a fruit that looked like this, I woke up 8 hours later. Right. So let's split this and see what happens. Right.
Then
they start, then they're like another guy, like they're wrestling on the ground, they're just laughing over nothing, and they go out and they start yelling at girls.
Go watch a football game. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're just like, and like from there, it's just about fine tuning. Now you're just you're just honing in the craft.
Yeah.
And I like cherries. Maybe we can add a little cherries.
They figured out the fermentation process because they were also baking bread. And they were then, once we became sort of hunter-gatherers, we were hunter-gatherers. Then all of a sudden, when we started like growing things in agriculture, that's where everything changed. Now, like he was saying in the book, and I could be wrong because someone's going to fact check this if they even listen to this. It was like 40% of our grain is used in the world to make alcohol, not to like feed people, not to like feed the hungry, to make alcohol. So there's this huge amount of like resources that are put behind this. And it started, like you said, like it's growing. But the main thing he was saying, the big headline that I took away was alcohol was like almost instrumental in us advancing as societies to literally keep us organized and calm, like to just keep us like sort of buzzed. And as like during the dark ages and during all those times, like trying to keep us like honed in, here's alcohol. It'll keep it, everyone comes home and like has the drink and they're like, oof. It made people not want to go rise up and kill the king. It's like, okay. And they were like, even in the 1700s, we were giving ale and for free to our army to calm everyone down and to keep them organized, to be like, well, yeah, we need to calm everyone down. So alcohol has been a part of this whole thing for a long time, used as a calming agent, used as a, but everyone socializes it. So it's not really seen as a drug. It's just been completely socialized because it tastes good. It's funny. You would think, have you ever had one of those experiences where you're so sick, you just threw up, like you literally have almost alcohol poisoning?
Like hungover?
Yeah. Hungover. You're throwing up. You pray to die. You're lying on the floor, like during college was probably one of them, lying on the floor of your bathroom. You're just out. Kind of blacked out.
There was only one time that I got, I've thrown up. I could probably remember every time I've thrown up. I've always been really good at, I shouldn't say I'm good at holding my alcohol. I'm good at knowing when enough is enough.
Moderation. Yep.
Yeah. It's just knowing when, I'm going to skip this round. I feel my body. I'm like, yeah, it's probably a good idea to skip this round. I've never been a peer pressure guy. Right. So I've never just drank where I thought I had to. excuse me. There was one time where it was in the very early stages of beer pong, and we had a beach house that we rented with a ton of my high school friends, and it was a huge house in Long Beach Island, and there was a ping pong table. That's how big the house was at a beach house. And the game back then was actually called Beirut, because it was when we were bombing Beirut, and that's just what people called it. Like, not us, like it was called Beirut, and you put the cups there and you were throwing the ping pong balls in the cups, and it wasn't called beer pong. It was just, that's what it was called. So
clean that brand up.
So a friend of mine and I were on one team, and we were playing other teams, and we played winner stay on. And, you know, same rules. Like, we didn't fill them up all the way, but you drank the beer when the ball went in it. But he and I also had a bottle of Mad Dog 2020, like a you know, regular sized bottle. And I remember there was like two windows behind us, and ours were like, my bottle was sitting on a windowsill, his bottle was sitting on a windowsill. And after every game or whenever, like, we'd win, you know, we'd high five, we'd go over, you know, take a big thing, like it was Gatorade, you know. So we took a thing of Mad Dog, put it back down, went and played, won another game, high fives, Mad Dog, right? And like, we're not keeping score of what is going on with these games. We're just getting progressively more drunk and drinking Mad Dog like it's Gatorade. And so we probably won 4 or 5 straight games. And then next thing you know, I'm like, I don't think I could play, right? And and I remember I went out in the hall, I went downstairs. There was like a half bath right across the hall from a full bath. It's just a way it was laid out. Half bath, you walk out, long hallway, and full bath right across the hall. I walk into the half bath, I just get down on my knees and I just start puking. And like, I'm spinning, puking. And that's when I'm just like, get it all out, you fucking moron. Like, you've been drinking Mad Dog and beer, pounding it, right? This all happened in the course of like an hour, right? So pounding it. And I remember just like throwing up a lot, thinking like, okay, the spins have stopped. I'm cold now a little bit. And like, I remember looking down, like from my knees, you know, across the hall. And I just see this other dude like lying down. His hands are up on the toilet. His girlfriend is like rubbing his back. I'm like, oh, there's my partner. Right. So the two of us just got annihilated. And throwing up kind of brought me down to normal, very drunk. Right. So I remember I went upstairs to the top deck, and basically just I like lie down on the wood, and I'm like, this feels great. Next thing you know, it's probably 2 hours later, and like my brother had showed up. He's rubbing. He's like, dude. I'm like, huh? And it's like midnight, right? Like, it's like he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know where, what? You know, and like,
I'm cool, right?
Yeah, that I think looking back on my life, that is probably the most drunk, like the most alcohol that was in my body.
It's funny because what you're describing is what this book and what it triggered for me was like, a lot of people have had that experience with you. I would say more than probably less that have maybe Americans, but you know, I'm sure there's all kinds of people in different cultures that have had the same experience you had. What this brought up was, if that was a drug, if I handed you this new magic drug you've never done before, and you did the drug, and then that was your experience afterwards, your body sort of like goes, okay, we can manage only what we can manage. So we're just going to punt it out of here. We're going to get it out of your system. There would be more of a, maybe I shouldn't do that moment. And he's talking about like, not everyone, but there would be more people that would be like, all right, maybe that's just not for me. Right. You know, maybe this thing isn't for me, but it's so socialized. Again, this isn't judging. It's just, it's very socialized drug that you can remember those things, but it isn't going to make you quit. Like I've seen people when I was in college, like pray to die, like, and be with them and like laying on the ground. And they're like, they're a fucking mess. And you can almost like, do we need to go to the hospital? Because this person's having like literally not throwing up anything more, just like their body is almost convulsing.
Right.
Eyes are rolling back in their head. You're kind of like, okay, I think we've got alcohol poisoning here. And the next day, the hero is welcome and they have a Bloody Mary. There's never that moment of like, maybe that was too much. Maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. You know what I mean? When they always say there's rock bottom with alcohol.
There's for some there are.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like everybody has a why I don't drink tequila anymore story. Why I never drink bourbon anymore story.
Yeah, Rumplemans.
I don't think I've touched Mad Dog since that night.
Right. Nor should you.
But I think right. That was the only silver lining from that night. Right. But I think most normal, rational people learn from mistakes. It doesn't need to be black and white, right? Like, if I go, if I get into a fender bender, like I'm not going to quit driving. I'm just going to say, okay, just maybe don't text, or maybe watch the car in front of you. Ooh, dude, we didn't even touch on last night.
Oh yeah, your car.
Yeah,
we got to get there.
How do we forget that? How do we forget that?
Oh my god!
Yeah. How is that not the first thing you and I
talked? This conversation.
Ask if I was okay.
You texted me that you were okay,
but you didn't want to elaborate.
I was like, anyway, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad.
I know. I just it's funny that we just not get to that. So I was driving home from work last night, and now I think about it, I'm like, it's not that great of a story. But I was driving home from work, and John and I were on the phone, and my car started making like weird noises, not pull over now noises, but is that my car? Is that my car making that noise or the truck next to me? Like it was one of those type things.
Yeah.
And then like John's going on, he's telling me the story and he's talking. Meanwhile, I'm like,
you're super distracted.
I'm turning off my heater. I'm turning down the music.
So distracted. I was like,
yeah, I'm basically troubleshooting things to see like maybe it's the fan for the heater.
Right.
Nope, still noise. And the noise kind of comes and goes. And then I'm like, I'm going to turn my dash, whatever the display, to show engine temperature just to make sure. Right. And it's usually like right in the middle. It's like a digital, from 0 to I think 120. And it usually just sits at about like 60.
Right.
And I turn it on and it's at like 75, which is higher than I've ever seen it. Then a little light comes on that says, coolant level. And it worried me a little bit because, the car was making a little bit noise. But the thing I didn't even tell you last night when we were on the phone, about a month ago, my coolant light came on and I was like, oh shit. And I was out driving. So when I got to my office, I went and looked in the coolant and it was like completely full. And I'm like, that's weird. Like it's full of coolant. So I put the cap back on and then shut the thing. And then the light never came back on. So I'm like, it could have been a loose cap. It could have been, Yeah. So when the light came on last night, I figured it's probably the same thing. There's just a glitch in the circuit.
Computer.
And then we're driving more. I'm on 95, Route 95, big highway, right? Goes from New York, the north to Florida. So I'm on Route 95 going home and I'm watching the temperature, and now it's at like I'm not watching it rise. You can't see it move. Right. But if you stare at it, you're like, nah, yeah, that's definitely past 75. That's definitely past 75. Yeah. I don't think it's standing still. Yeah. Now it's 80. Yep. It's definitely moving. Is it staying? It's probably staying at 80. No, it's more than 80, but not quite. So like, I'm just watching it. And meanwhile, I'm telling John, I'm like, the heat in my engine is going up.
I like when you're like, at one point, I think you asked, is coolant important? I was like, yeah. Kinda. Two non-car guys that work in the automotive industry is like, I don't know, like I guess it's important. Like,
it's more important than windshield wiper fluid, right? Because I can drive with a dirty windshield.
It seems important.
So can I drive with no coolant?
Right.
Basically.
No. So I would say no.
And even more important, how long can I drive without coolant?
That's the main question was last night.
Yeah. The answer is minutes.
The answer is not far.
So it gets to a point where I'm a half a mile from the exit to get off of 95, where I would normally go to another pretty busy road. And now all the lights come on. There's a big red thing on the dash that said coolant low, stop car, turn off engine immediately. And I'm like, should I do, like, I probably need to do that, right? I'm getting off of a highway. John's like, I think you should pull over. Yeah. I think you should turn the car off. He's like, do you want to stay on the phone? I'm like, yeah, stay on, like, let's just stay on the phone. Not,
I remember like, where should I park? Probably a nice parking lot, like something, you know,
so I pull off,
auto repair.
So I'm off the side of the road. I turn the engine off and I'm just waiting, and like nothing's really happening other than cars whizzing by me. And I wait about maybe 3 minutes, right? Like we were just talking, I'm like, all right, I'm on the side. Like, I guess I'll just call a tow truck or call my wife. Like, I don't even know what to do. I guess tow truck. Like, my wife can't just come pick me up. I need to do something with the car. So I turned the car back on. Now it's down to like, it went from like 120. Now it's down to like 85 again. I'm like, ooh, it cooled a little bit. Maybe I can get another mile or two, right? So I start going.
It's like inch forward a little bit.
Yeah. So I get onto I get onto the other road, 100, and the thing, every light in my car comes on again, you know, and I'm just like, oh, fuck. And like the car is now struggling to like get real speed. I'm probably doing 50, 45.
Adrenaline rush. Yeah.
And I know that there's an exit really soon. So I mean, like you can see it. So I'm just like, just need to get to this exit. I get off the exit. I immediately pull into a parking lot and just stop it. And I'm like, all right, I'm parked, you know, bye. And that's the last John and I spoke. And then, so I'm parked. I pop the hood. I go look, and like it's smoking, but not like movie broken down side road.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It looks like you added oil to a skillet smoke. Like it was a visibly emitting heat.
Any smoke's bad.
Any
Even
smoke
if
is
steam.
bad. Yeah.
Anything coming out of the front of your car like that is bad.
Oh,
it's
for
never
sure.
Good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like it was clearly broken. As if every light on my dashboard didn't tell me, you know, something was clearly broke. So, but as soon as I put it up, and like it smelled like shit, like the burnt, you know, and I'm looking and like I can see that there's been liquid in a lot of places. It's like sticky wet. So there's nothing cooled.
So it like
there's nothing cooled. Right. But if I told you, like, if you took antifreeze or you took coolant, you took whatever and you poured it onto something and nothing pooled, but you look, I'd be like, that was wet. And there's like gunk, like kind of stuck to it. And then I look under the car and there's a big puddle and still dripping. I'm like, oh shit, I guess my coolant, like either the hose broke or the container broke or something broke. So then I'm like, all right, I guess I can just leave it here. I'll figure out, you know, I can get a tow truck. And then I realized like, oh, I'm like 2.5 miles from my beach, maybe even less, from where my beach neighbor lives. And like, he's great with cars. He's like one of those guys, like very successful guy, white collar, you know, runs a successful engineering firm. Right. And also like can take apart and put together an entire car.
I was hoping you'd say like he was a drug dealer. He's a very successful drug dealer.
He's a very successful drug dealer.
That would add color to the story. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. So he's going to help me on two fronts. No, but so because you know, I'm sort of like I've got an adrenaline rush, right? Like I'm a little bit like, is my engine going to explode, right? Yeah. Like I'm just like, man,
dollar signs.
It's a weird anxiety.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, I'm like a mile or two from this guy's house. I'll just call him, and then we're 10 minutes from my house, so it's not like we're far. So I call him. He answers like, hey. I'm like, hey, are you home?
Do you have pants on?
He's like, what's that?
Do you have pants on? He's like, yeah, cool.
Can you take them off? So, you know, I say, are you home? And he's like, I'll be home shortly. What's up? I'm like, can you help a Jew with a car problem? And he's like, yeah, where are you? And I'm like, I'm parked right next to the cupcake store, like right off 100. And he's like, oh my God, dude, I'm passing that in like 5 seconds. Like, I'm like, really? He goes, oh yeah. I just got off 100. And I see his car go by, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I see.
It's like Tokyo Drift. He's like,
yeah. I'm like, just pull into the lot. So he like the timing was nuts. Right. So he pulls into the lot, and he comes in, and he gets out, and he looks. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, there's something broke, and he starts, and he's meanwhile he's in like a white shirt, tie, like pullover, and nice pants, you know, and he starts tinkering with something. He's like, you know what? He's like, it's probably a hose. I bet it's a hose. And he looks down. He's like, yeah. He goes, here's the deal. Why don't just keep it here? I'll drive you home right now. And I'm like, you don't have to. I'll take an Uber. He's like, no. I'll drive you home. I'll see your girls, whatever. It'll be fine. So he's like, just leave it here. Give me the key. I'll come back later with some water, see if I can fill it up. At the very least, I'll drive it to my house and then we can tinker with it. So I'm like, cool. So he drives me home and he sends me a text later on that night.
So far, part of this real quick, at no point was like, and we'll take it to the garage for them to do it. I love that he's like, yeah, I'll take it to my house and you and I'll tinker with it.
No,
I would look at him like, no, that means you're going to tinker with it and I'm going to hold the flashlight. Like, I'm like, what? Like,
I love when he says that. He's like, yeah, we can fix it later. I'm like, so I basically stand there with the pan of your tool, right, of your tools. Like, I don't know how many times I've been the guy who holds the thing for the other
hold
guy.
This. Like, here, I call him, here, hold this. Here, hold this. Like, yep.
Yep. Right. And I don't even know how many times I've been that guy for him and his brother. Like, because his brother's also our neighbor. Like, so the two of them live next door. And they're great. They're great around the house. They're great fixing everything. They're amazing with cars. Like, I had one part fall off the minivan at one point, and I just kind of went in under it with like just a shitload of duct tape. And then it kind of came off again a little bit. And I told them about like, oh yeah, it's an easy fix. It's a bracket, do with the screw, with the this, with that. And I'm like, I don't even like, I'm getting anxious just thinking about sliding under the car,
right?
Do something like that, let alone know where to screw shit. I would screw right through the gas canister, you know, like, so like, I remember I took the minivan and like, we don't have a jack for him to get under. So he goes, hey, up there, like it's one of those parking lots where like on the side lot, it kind of goes up on an incline a little bit.
Like a curb. Yeah.
It's a rounded off curb.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually drove the car. I put the two passenger side wheels up on the curb and then just like parked it there. So it's on this much of a a tiny little incline. But it was enough for him to get under and work on it.
Here, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And meanwhile, I'm holding like I've got a clamp, I've got a needle nose plier of some sort, and like a couple different screws and like this. And he's under like he's like, plier. And I'm like, do you want the plier with the pointy front? Or do you want? And he's like, pointy front. I'm like, okay, here you go. Anyway,
so emasculating. You're like, yeah,
I know.
All right.
It's the worst.
Want me to make you a sandwich?
and that's why I just embrace it, right? Like I just start every conversation.
This isn't my lane.
Yep. Car problems, you know the deal. Like I'll bring you beer. I always do. So yeah, so he was like, he sent me a text last night. He's like, I put a bunch of water in. It just all came right out. The hose is definitely faulty. We'll get a new hose tomorrow and we'll just, we'll replace it tomorrow night. And I was like, sounds good. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A lot of we. So
nurses we.
Did we do that?
We have not yet done that.
Okay.
We are home alone without a car right now.
So where's your car's at his place?
My car is in a Dunkin' Donuts cupcake shop there. Parking lot. Oh yeah.
Did you write a note on your dash? No.
I mean, I'm getting a new car anyway. This car's a 2008. It's old. It's dying. Like there was a part of me that's like, if I just leave it unlocked, maybe someone will take it and drive a mile before the engine explodes on them. Like that's almost, if I could have a camera inside, I'd rather someone stole it and watch the engine explode than keep the car.
Yeah. It's more of a relocation than a stealing if you leave it unlocked. Like if you,
it's not going far
it at all. Yeah. It's not going to go.
And I told him, I'm like, do you think this car could make it a mile to your house or 2 miles, whatever? And he's like, oh no, I wouldn't drive.
I would have loved the transcripts of you and I talking about, and some of the questions seemed theoretical. Like you were asking me, and I was like, just trying to be supportive. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like a hose. Definitely sounds important. Definitely. And I was like, yeah, you should probably pull over. And I wasn't like, yeah, gun it.
Right. Can you get home? If you gun it, you're going to get home faster.
You're fine. Like it definitely seemed like, well, you and I did a whole campaign about what that little yellow light makes you do. Like check engine. The minute the check engine light comes on, man, you're just talking about an adrenaline rush.
It's a panic.
It's a panic. It's real. And like, we don't, our part of our campaign was like, that should be in life. Like this little light comes on. It's vague. Who knows what it is? You just know it might be expensive as fuck. Sometimes it's not, you didn't tighten the gas cap.
I know.
Really tight. And then you're like, okay, well, it was that. I like that there's fixes now. Try that first. but someone had to tell you that. I would have never thought of that.
I love that. I love that there could be a single light in a car that ranges anywhere from the gas cap is loose after your last fill up to if you go another mile, your engine will literally explode.
It's so
like
bad.
how right.
And that's where you would think these days it would be very much more specific. Like, is it more specific in a Tesla? Because it's basically just computer car. Like, does
You would
the
think.
computer car would tell you more information. It would know exactly what the problem is.
And I wouldn't mind some specifics in that. Like my newest car is a 2009. So I don't know what cars do now, like with the readout. But like, I would love for there to be something that's like, instead of just a coolant light coming on where it was just a loose cap the last time. And it wasn't even a loose cap. Like, I took it off. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with this? And when I went talk to the dealership, they're like, yeah, that happens with a loose cap or a faulty wiring or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So there should be something that says like your coolant level is draining. There's probably a hole. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a little bit more specific than coolant. Or when the check oil light comes on, it's like, you probably have about 100 miles at this pace. If it keeps dripping out, we'll let you know there's a leak. Like just something other than just a fucking light.
The diagnostic should be much more, give you more information, plus then give you scenarios. If you keep doing this, it's going to cost you $5,000. If you do this, it's going to cost you probably $2,000 based on, because we know where your car is and we know like where you live, you can get it fixed. Because if they can tell you how much gas is around you, they should be able to tell you like, you're going to need new brake pads. Your brake pads are going to cost between this and this. If you keep doing this, expect to pay this. And that would be great output. Like that's the type of shit I would want to know. Like my car should be able to tell, but a vague yellow light that just says to check the main thing of your car is vague.
Yeah, it's too vague.
So I would think, again, I don't have a Tesla.
You know what?
There would be some sort of that would be one of the things.
What's funny too is like when something does happen with my car, the check engine light comes on or something else, is I'll take it to the dealership and they say, well, we're going to hook it up to it and run a diagnostics.
Right.
That's what I say. I go, what is that? They're like, we plug something into the cigarette lighter, whatever,
computer, it's like this.
And then their computer is going to say exactly what's faulty. And I'm like, why can't we just program that into the car?
Why can't the car do that?
The technology exists, right?
That has been my point for a long time.
Meanwhile, there's probably like, how old's your car?
2020.
Okay. I was going to say, if yours was older, meanwhile, everyone listening is just like, that exists, you fucking morons.
No.
Like you just haven't bought a car.
I have a Ford and it tells me, you need, like, it came on, the light came on that I need to get an oil change. Soon was the word. The word is soon.
Right.
It doesn't say when.
Right.
Soon is vague.
Yes.
Soon is a relative term to me. Okay.
I know some people were soon tomorrow. Like they get anxious.
Or soon a month from now.
Yeah.
So finally I got on my app and I looked, I'm like, oh, soon, like now. Like, but I don't know. Again, here's the other thing that was praying in my head. Soon that the oil has to change because the oil needs changing or there's no oil in my car. Those are two different scenarios in my mind.
Completely different scenarios.
Completely different. Like, oh, this is old oil. You need new oil. And it's big oil selling you oil. So they need to get the old oil out and put the new oil in. That's big oil selling more oil.
Right.
If it's my engine telling me I have no lubricant at all and just shut this thing down, totally different things.
Last night.
Right. Totally different things.
Yes.
So I don't know why my car can't tell me that. Because it says check.
Does it ever get to a point though where there's no oil, where there's just no, like how long do you have to go? I know they say every 3,000 miles. And then the person in the know who's just like, oh, that's just big oil. It's 6,000, 7,000, 10,000. I feel like with my car, it's been about 12 to 15,000 before I get it changed. And it's always changed. I get my oil changed. I don't get my oil replenished.
Right.
I get it changed. So that means that there's at least something in there. But
there's something in there.
To your point, like when does oil lose all its lubrication abilities? Like when is it just worthless liquid? And then does it ever empty? Like when people go and they check the oil, I'm gonna check the oil, right? They pull the dipstick out and it's like, oh, you're low on oil.
That's different than you need to change the oil.
That's different than shitty oil.
Yep. Yeah. Your shitty oil.
And then how long does how long will oil last before there's zero oil? And will there ever be zero oil before there's half a thing of shitty oil?
I don't know, because it's always, you and I may or may not have sat in meetings about oil, possibly. And it was always the word recommended. Well, who's recommending it? The oil company's recommending it. Well,
big oil.
Of course, big oil. Of course, they're going to recommend that you change your oil every 3,000 miles. And you want to pull some guy in the lab could have said, like, okay, well, how often do I really have to do this? And he can be like, I don't know, 10,000. I don't know. Like, why do engines even need at this point of the game, if it's a synthetic lubricant, is it breaking down? Like, do we need even to change your oil ever? I don't know. Right. Like, that's where I get, like, I literally just like went in to say, maybe this is the catalyst that we have worked for oil companies to say, we need to pull these guys into the, it's a good gateway for us to be able to check on the car, rotate the tires, get some a little bit more money. Their dads did it, their fathers did it. Everyone's changing their oil, but maybe I don't know. I've never known it to anyone say like, oh, you don't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
but I feel like the mechanic / Jiffy Lubes, place where you would go, like the service is sort of like a doctor, right? Like they're going to tell you, or like a lawyer, right? They're going to tell you the best. Like if you really want to be safe, you can't say any of this stuff. Mm-hmm. You can't write any of this stuff. A lawyer will always tell you, I'm going to give you the advice, which makes it like 0.5% that you'll get sued. Right. They go to the safest extreme. And then you go, okay, I'm willing to take 2% chance. So I'll say some of this stuff, but that's the same thing with a doctor. Like, I drink, 12 times, I have 2 beers a day. So let's just say, just for easy math, I drink 14 times a week. Doctors say, should really cut that down to maybe twice a week. And you go, okay. And then I leave, I go 7, 8, that's probably right. It's like the doctor's like most healthy,
low.
I am, this is what I enjoy out of life. And so if I do some mental gymnastics, I'm like, he wants me to live to be 120. I don't want to be 120. I'll take 90. I'll take 80. I might even take 75. Right. Oh. So I want to enjoy myself. So I'm it's probably the same thing with a mechanic. When they're like every 3,000 miles, I go, okay, so that's like code for 5 or 6.
Right.
Or 7. Because I have a buddy over there who does 12.
Right.
So it's probably 6.
So I don't know if my engine's telling me bad or recommended. I don't know what it is. So I have to go out there and like pull the dipstick and be like, I guess I still have lubricant in my car. But it's so funny because I think taking your car to get it fixed or anything, like if you were to take say you were to go get a new hose for your coolant, I think it's like more like going to the dentist. They're going to find a problem.
Oh, for sure.
They're going to find a bunch of other problems.
Yep.
Like I'll remember the last time I went to the dentist, and that'll be our next podcast. I'm going to the dentist. It's been a while. The last time I went, they were like, well, you have some pre-cavities. I was like, okay, what's that? I'm like, well, these are probably going to be cavities. We should probably fill these. So I was like, well, shouldn't we wait till they're cavities? Well, no, you and I was like, what's pre? That was a whole new thing.
Every tooth is a pre-cavity. That's what a tooth is by definition.
I thought by just chewing, I had pre-cavities. Like I just was like, this is another big dental trying to like always find problems. Like I love when people are like, well, that I always feel like I'm being upsold no matter what. And the other thing that I've always said about dentists, and I will say this to whomever is the bloody mess that they're going to have cleaning my teeth, is why is this still so Civil War antiquated? You're taking a metal pick and picking my teeth. It's so far advanced in the world right now. Why isn't there this thing I put in my mouth and it does something and it cleans my teeth?
Or like a like a laser or like a non-contact.
they're still scraping your teeth by hand. Like this hasn't evolved. Even the tool probably hasn't evolved. Like
No.
nothing's changed. Like remember that thing you had to bite down to get the x-ray that like
Yep. Mm-hmm.
that hasn't changed. They still do that. You know, some dentists have the whole head x-ray thing, but not everybody. Like that's like from the 50s, it feels like.
And they always manage to put that thing in such a position that the corner digs into your gum.
Digging into, and it's pain. Everything's painful. And my bit is like, this hasn't evolved. The thing they put in your mouth, and you're gonna help. They're putting shit on your chest, and they're like
the cone-shaped rinsing sink.
They're telling you to spit, and you got to get up, and there's just blood everywhere. At least for me, like it's just this hasn't evolved, and people are always wondering why they don't like going to the dentist because you're literally in 1945. Like I don't understand why nothing's changed. Like, can't they give me something that I can put in my mouth, and I sleep, and when I wake up, my teeth are clean.
Right.
But no, you have to scrape them for an hour.
I don't even understand either why there's not just like even dentists should even have an app where like they open something and they just kind of like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then also it's like, well, that could be, or even just something that says that there and there could be a cavity.
Right.
Okay. Then I'll chew on that fucking film, whatever, whatever they put in there. But like to do that everywhere just to get, and it's like 3 or 4 different places. Like we're not at the point right now where you can just get the whole jaw.
Right. And think about this. Riddle me this, Batman.
That thing comes down right in your face.
We have a tooth. We have a brush.
Right.
It used to be a twig. Now it's a brush. That really hasn't evolved. They can say it has more bristles or less bristles, and there's 3 different
It
times.
evolves every 2 or 3 months, which is what's crazy.
Soft, and then sometimes it has a little thing. I have a vibrating one now. But you put it like a paste on it, you get that wet, and you do the thing. You do it maybe once or twice a day. They tell you to floss, but you still need to get your teeth cleaned every 6 months. What are we doing wrong that we have to go get that done?
And why doesn't any of it work?
Why hasn't we just said, just use mouthwash, don't bother. Just we'll get them.
You're gonna get a cavity
really
anyway.
You're gonna get
a cavity
because the maintenance you're doing isn't doing anything. If it is, then we haven't evolved from a science perspective to say the paste or the thing isn't preventing me having to go to big dentist every 6 months.
And getting scraped.
It's always been getting scraped. So what am I doing right or wrong that I don't have to get scraped?
What I would love to be in the R&D room of a toothbrush company. Where they're like, this right here, the way that the bristles are positioned, like they're longer on the outsides, they're smaller on the inside. We've narrowed down the distribution of bristles to hit the tooth perfectly. This is the best toothbrush that you could possibly have for your teeth. And that's how we're going to market it. Right.
Right.
2 months later, they're just down there tinkering like, I think they need to be spread out a little bit more.
Yeah, I think we need some more teeth.
Right. I think if they were spread out a little bit more, that's the best toothbrush that could possibly be in the market. And tiny little angle adjustment. Great. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, it's like this same company, this is the best toothbrush on the market. The angle technology, so-and-so. And like, no one ever just sits there at home and goes, oh, bullshit. Like, why should I believe you this time when you're going to fix this fucking mess 6 months later? Like,
and no company has ever said, we have a toothbrush and a toothpaste that you can buy for $100. And you're never going to have to go to the dentist ever again. You're never going to have to go because the maintenance you'll be doing and the non-cavities and the whatever you're happening, it just shows that either our teeth aren't built for what we do to them, or Big Dental is saying we have to scrape your teeth. And what, they're like, do you floss? I'm like, I brush my teeth every 2 days, like twice a day, 7 days a week. How is that not like a built up of a body of work that I'm like, I should have good teeth?
I have a new business idea. And because I already see the marketing for it, right? Let's just create a toothbrush that lasts a long time. That's it. It lasts like 2 years and it doesn't fan out. You know what I'm saying? Like when toothbrushes get like flat.
But isn't it bacteria
like,
too? Like, yeah.
If you're putting soap on it, there shouldn't be bacteria.
Yeah, that's true.
Like what's the Colgate doing if the if the toothbrush is getting cavities?
Right.
Like we're using the wrong toothpaste. But it's just like go to market and say, look, technology changes all the fucking time. It's like razor blades, 4 blades, 5 blades, 6 blades.
How many more blades?
Blue blades, right?
Like literally, it's going to be like
blades.
this. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like 10 blades.
Right. It's going to be a guillotine, right? Like just biggest blade, smallest blade.
Yeah.
Like it's a razor. Like the free thing that you get at the hotel when you forget it with the 2 one blades. Razor, and you're praying to God you don't just rip your skin off, right? It's like a cheese shredder going down your cheek. But that works.
The
it works
butter knife.
Fine.
Right. Yeah.
I've dry shaved with the plastic 1 blade hotel thing. It works fine. Right. So it'd be great if someone's just like, look, fuck if I know what the best toothbrush technology is. 17 different companies will tell you 17 different things. And we change it every 6 months anyway. But this right here, it's going to go 2 years without these bristles flattening out and going to the side and making it like you're just brushing your teeth with your pinky, like.
Right. But why hasn't anyone gone up against big dental and say, we have a toothpaste, we have a system, we'll call it a system that you can subscribe to and you'll never have to go to the dentist ever again?
I would subscribe.
Right.
But Big Dental has probably like squashed that thing down. Like if you really want to take a deep dive into it, we can go down a rabbit hole and find like, there was this one guy and he was onto something and he was doing it.
Yeah.
He never came home from work one day.
We have
suicided. No idea.
Yeah. He got suicided.
Yeah. He had a heart attack.
He was the cellmate of Jeffrey Epstein.
He had a heart attack in the bathroom at a Wendy's, and you're like, well, didn't he work out every day? Yeah. Oh yeah. He was in top shape.
That's weird.
Tragedy.
Yeah.
He had just patented this paste that just whitens and kills everything on your teeth, fills in cavities on its own.
Yeah.
And why can't there be something that just fills in the cavity?
Or like knows you have cavities? Like remember
like a caulk.
Remember the shit they used to give you and then you could smile and you saw the places you missed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember those?
It. Like, it was like a red tablet.
And it made everything like you saw the spaces you missed.
Yeah.
So that was even teaching us as children how to brush better, but we still have to go to the dentist.
That's right.
I don't get it.
Well, here's another thing. I have a question for the toothbrush I was using when I missed all those red spots, right? Because it's not like you just skip a tooth. Like I'll tell you right now, and I'd be willing to lay down as much money as I want. When I'm brushing my teeth, I'm not missing.
Right.
I'm not missing.
There's only so many of them.
Like if I'm missing, I'm not feeling the toothbrush. You know what I'm saying? Like when I go like this
way back. Yeah.
Like even if I get underneath in the back, okay. But like if I'm doing this, right? And I take that little red tablet and it's like dunk, 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 and dunk. I'm like, what the fuck was this?
Right.
Then?
Yeah.
Like there's no way.
You literally did the thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Mine vibrates.
I forgot about those tablets.
And it pulses every time. So you're supposed to do a section. So from like this tooth to this tooth, that's 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes total. So it's 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. And you do the whole thing. So I've been using that, but I still don't feel like I'm still going to get
time, by the way.
Yeah, but I'm still going to get picked to death. Like I just know it. It's coming. Like someone is going to literally, I'm going to have to apologize. I'm going to have to tell her to put on a hazmat uniform. I'm going to have to tell her like I'm a bleeder. Like it's going to be a mess.
I want to know what the best now I'm thinking about toothbrushes. I want to know what the best technology is. Like how again, when you forget your shit at a hotel and they give you, it's just a white handle and it's just a flat, it's a flat, like it looks like something you scrub a floor with. Right?
Yeah,
like
probably is.
It's just flat bristles,
right?
All in a row, perfectly neat white toothbrush. Is that company knowingly manufacturing shitty toothbrushes? Are they just like, you know what? We're all in agreement when they're longer on the side, shorter in the front, and curved at such an angle. It's amazing, but we're not going to make amazing toothbrushes. We're going to make 15-cent toothbrushes, and we don't care. And if someone asks us about it, we'll say
it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better a solid B-. You know what I'm saying? Right. But like, or hear me out. Does it fucking matter?
Right.
Do the bristles matter? Like
I
the way
know.
that they're positioned, they can't possibly matter.
Remember the big toothbrush that was like this? No one can see my hand. It was like it looked like a spoon. and it had a bunch of bristles on it, and it was bent a little bit, so your thumb got on it.
Yep.
And like, I had a roommate that like had one of those, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" And he's like, "It's my toothbrush," and I was like, "What?" But I remember just being like, "Is that better? Is he never going to have to go to the dentist? Like, is he ahead of the curve? Does he know something I don't know?"
It's like that toilet cleaner that has like the hole in the middle of it, so like you can jam it down into the toilet.
I challenge anyone who's listening to this, anyone, if it's just you and me, go to the grocery store, and the next time just go look at all the different types of toothpastes and be like, what? Everything's whitening. I don't think my teeth are whiter. Everything's like anti-plaque. I still have plaque. And it's this, it's that. It's going to help your gums. My gums are still fucked up, but I brush twice a day. Like, that's what I'm like trying to like, I don't understand is it something I'm eating? Because your dentist isn't even like a doctor in a way that says, you should probably buy your teeth, and that we did this test. You should probably stay away from these types of foods because of your extra plaque buildup. No one's ever told me that, to regulate my diet based on my teeth. They might say like, don't drink too much coffee because it's going to stain them, or red wine, or something like that. But have you ever had a dentist say like, you can't eat grapes? And it was always sugar.
Right.
But there was never like a specific like pears. You cannot eat pears anymore because that's why you're having so much plaque buildup. We ran this test, and we see that there's a pear buildup on this. So no more pears for you. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll totally avoid pears. If it gets me not to have to come here ever again.
Right. Yeah. And then you're driving home, you're like, that makes sense. The skin's a little sticky.
Yeah.
I can see the pear being like, when you touch some fruit, it leaves a stick to your hands.
I just don't think
why wouldn't it be the same with the teeth?
Question the Dental Association of America or whatever to say like, because everyone's like, well, you have to go every 6 months. Why?
Right. Nothing. What changes?
I brush my teeth twice a day. Why do I have to go?
Wouldn't it be great if we really did organize this massive televised town hall where we're going to invite a panel of 12 dentists,
right,
and just pepper them with questions? And like, they're all going to be scrambling. Like, who do we send? Let's send Bob. He is so quick on his feet. Like he can 9
out of 10 dentists are going to be like,
Jedi mind trick people into believing anything. Like, we can't bring Thomas. He's going to fold. He's going to cave.
It's going to be like 60 minutes.
Yeah. Like, big dentist is just like, oh shit. Like they're on to us. Like,
they know. The like fucking podcast that 5 people listen to, they started it all.
Because how is it that toothbrushes change every 6 months but the dental equipment hasn't?
But you still
and why can't the toothbrush just
go to the dentist?
Right. Well, you don't have to.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, society says you have to go.
You don't have to. What would happen if you just didn't?
I don't know. I told someone the other day that I hadn't been to the dentist, I think, since Obama was president. And they were like, you would have thought I said I kill babies in my spare time. Like, I was like, and I eat them in a pizza shop. Like,
meanwhile, they go to the dentist twice a year, and they have cavities and plaque and like, and there's scraping. People I know who's I've known at least 2 people who go to the dentist twice a year, and like, at one point a tooth fell out.
Right.
Just fell out. An adult.
And then you could say, like, mouth. Is this the 1700s? Do you use a twig to brush your teeth? No.
Do you not brush your teeth?
Do you not brush your teeth? No, I brush them twice a day. And your teeth are still falling out of your head.
I think genetics have a little bit to do with it. Imagine like that's the big secret. Like, look, you're born, cavities are either going to come or go. Teeth are either going to be white or brown. I get when you, like, if you smoke, they're going to brown. Like, there's some things I can intuitively understand. Yeah. Right. If you're just, behavior. You look at the filter of a cigarette and look at your fingers. Right. You'd think it's going to happen to your teeth. Right. If you eat lots of sweets, if you just drink soda by the gallon, yeah, it's just going to sit. I mean, look at what Coca-Cola does to battery acid. You don't think it's fucking up your teeth, Right. So I can see things that are just, but if you're just normal, like you're health conscious, but not crazy about it. Right. Like, what happens if you just don't ever go? Like, I think it's just genetic,
And someone's like, oh, I had to get a root canal. What happened? That's coming for me. Like, I think that it's going to just be like, they're going to look under the hood and be like, this thing's a fucking train wreck. But again, my point is that I've said it probably 100 times during this podcast is it's not like I don't brush my teeth. It's not like I don't do all the things I'm supposed to be doing.
I do all the preventative maintenance.
I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing.
All the preventative maintenance.
I have to wipe my mirror down from like fucking just like, getting in there and there's blood from I do that. And like, oh, you have bleedy gums. It's like, well, I have bleedy gums because I'm taking a filament wire and jamming it between my teeth.
Just leave them alone. What happens if I just left the teeth alone?
I guess I also love when some food stuck in there. I don't know.
I also love like there's sometimes where I wake up and I'm going through the day and like I feel very sensitive around one tooth gum line where like I'll take a sip of water and I get like it almost feels like a little cold wind. And I'm like, ooh, like this tooth is, I need to watch this. Like if it's like this for a couple of days, then I'll do it again. Like later in the day, I'm like, I'm probably fucked up there. Then later in the day, I'm like, all right, maybe I'll make an appointment tomorrow. Then I wake up, don't feel it again for months. Yeah,
it's gone.
Months. All of a sudden, like what used to feel like a cold breeze, like there's one tooth felt like a window was open. You know what I'm saying? Like there's just like a little bit of like, and it was sensitive.
I have a tooth that I bit into something, and you would have thought someone just shoved my hand, like I electrocuted myself. I was like, "Ugh," like it literally like hit me, and I was like, well, that was weird. That was enough for me to go like, maybe I should go to the dentist. But it was enough for me to go like, all right, I guess I'll chew on the other side of my mouth because I've got two, one side or the other. It's enough for me to go like, well, it's bad. I was like, I should probably just move the food over there. But like, I've always just wondered about this stuff, and I can't wait to go in and be like, I haven't been in years. I'll be like the new guy that just like, again, I was frozen in time, and then I came back out of time and be like, the technology's changed. Wait, I just have to shove my face in this thing.
And do you even want the guilt trip from the dentist when you come in? Like, do you just walk in and say, can we skip over the part where I need to be here every twice a year? Because I already know that.
I always am that guy where I have an announcement. I'm like, so my mouth's fucked up. I'm going to bleed everywhere. I hate this. I hate you. And don't shove something. If I like jerk, don't do it 3 more times. Right. Know that that's probably a bad area and we'll figure it out. But let's just do this in stages. And they're probably like, oh, okay. All right. But
if my hand pops up and grabs your wrist aggressively, that's just a reflex.
And someone was like, why don't they just like, you should probably get nitrous, like gas. And I'm like, so you're saying that it's normal for me to get drugged to go get my teeth cleaned? Like, that's like, oh yeah, they do that. Or they have calming music, or they have like headphones now and you can watch a movie. And I was like, but no one is like pulled back and be like, well, that's even more fucked up. I have to get drugged.
How is it that they've changed the experience?
They haven't changed the process,
but not the tools.
This is great.
Yeah. So what happened just there a second ago is that my computer crashed and just completely shut down. So
technology.
Yeah. So that podcast kind of just ended abruptly.
Yeah.
So this will be like the new ending, right?
Yeah.
And I do have a thought. It could have been Big Dental.
Ooh.
Because we were on to something.
I think they heard.
We were uncovering some truths about toothbrushes, toothpaste, the dental industry. And I think that they just had enough.
They're like, shut us down. Shut it down. They called in an air there. There's probably an airstrike, but they were like, that'd be really severe. So
right. What if we just cut his cable?
Yeah. We'll just shut it down.
Or power, or send something through the internet. Anyway, but we were going long anyway, so that's the end. And I'm not sure we covered anything that we were supposed to cover.
No,
I don't even think we picked out of the hat.
Nope.
Don't know what we're going to call this one. Maybe
who knows?
Call it. I don't know. What do you want to call it? Maybe like international soccer.
That's good. Yeah.
All right. So we'll call it international soccer, and that's all.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
All right.
Bye.